Hey guys, I believe I am live. What's up? It's Wills. I'm from CSharp and Engineering Walkthroughs. William C-Sharp and Engineering Walkthroughs, and this is episode 2 of my 2D game engine series featuring Vanguard, my Vanguard engine, which is my UWP based C-Sharp game framework for building 2D games on top of. If you guys tuned in yesterday, I made a start going through some of the core concepts of Vanguard engine, some of the core concepts of what I'm trying to achieve here. If you haven't watched that video, go back and watch it. It's only about 40 minutes long in general. And there was not really any coding in that video because I hit a technical issue and my Visual Studio just crashed on me, and I decided to leave the coding to start for today. What I'm going to do today. So as promised, this is that stream. This is the stream where I'm going to start coding. So I'll be honest with you guys, I actually did some of the backend stuff already. So off screen, I was coding away. And you know, it was actually very interesting that I cut the stream short yesterday because let me run you through some of the updates, guys. Let's get straight into this. I actually decided to go with dynamic link libraries. So yesterday I said I was going to implement my MVP, my minimum viable product, or my minimum viable project, however you want to say it, for Vanguard Engine as a set of classes that just sit on the solution. But I decided, I was just like considering things yesterday, and I was like, you know what? I should use dynamic link libraries, you know? And it was a good call. This was after I went off stream, mind you guys. So if I had continued, everything went like all roses and daisies, then I may not have used DLLs, and I may have just continued like Parallax Engine, which is just like a plain solution file with all the classes and the folder hierarchy in one solution, which is not bad for what I'm setting out to achieve. But here I'm using DLLs, and it's paying off a little bit. So what did I do? Let me just save everything first, because I don't know. It's like twice yesterday that my Visual Studio crashed, one on stream, one off stream. I'm just gonna keep saving things, and I built my project. So because before I downloaded Win2D, and the build got lost. Somehow the package got lost, but I think it's because I didn't build my project, so the directories weren't built. And then it happened again after the stream. So after the stream, I loaded Visual Studio up. This was yesterday, and I didn't have Win2D. I was like, what happened? And I think it's because I didn't build the project, so the directories weren't built. So I made sure to build the directories. I've done a little test. So let me run through things without much further ado. Before I do so, guys, let me just quickly check off screen to make sure I'm actually online. Let me just double check. Yep, seems like I'm online. Everything's up and running. That's great. Let me check my OBS. Yeah, everything looks good. Awesome. Alright, sweet. So what's going on today? So I have a bit of an agenda. I want to build the core dynamic link library class structures for Vanguard Core. So over here I have two projects in my solution. Vanguard, which is just my UWP project, that, you know, you build the game on. You build whatever game you want to build on, you know, for your UWP product, UWP project. I have my Vanguard Core, which is actually a dynamic link library. This is a UWP class library, file type, or project type, better said. And I have some classes in here. So I would like to draw your attention firstly to this very rough notepad sketch that I did. And this kind of tries to model what I'm setting out to achieve. So here, all the functionality of the engine basically sits within Vanguard Core.dll, or Vanguard Core, right? Which is a set of DLL libraries. Take a sip of my tea. So I have a few classes in here. I have a main. I have what's known as a content pipeline CS. Oh, I just got a notification on my tablet. I got this iData interface, this data interface.cs, and animated resources. And these classes are separated into three categories, as I alluded to yesterday: model, view model, and view. Okay. So the majority of my business logic sits in the domain of the model. And if I go to my animated resources, this is pulled from Parallax Engine, and basically all of the logic, the code itself it works fine, It does look a little rough around the edges, which is fine. I just need everything to be working at this point. But the functionality I'm quite happy with the way it works. What this class is predominantly concerned with is to basically take all your assets, particularly your PNG files or JPEGs, but particularly PNGs, right? Your PNG images of all your sprites, your world graphics, stuff like that, and stream it into the project itself. So stream it as a bitmap, canvas bitmap object. And that canvas bitmap object can then be placed in a canvas animated control, which you can then draw onto the screen. So I went ahead and this was when I was off screen after my stream crashed, or after I went off stream, better said. I went off stream after my Visual Studio crashed. Sorry guys. I went ahead and imported this file, the source code for my Parallax engine. And yeah, so the way it works is that this is an example of a class that sits within the domain of a model. And what the data interface layer does, the data interface layer is within the domain of the view model. So what the data interface layer does, the data interface acts as a bridge between the members of the model's domain and the view domain, right? So I can pass objects and members within the domain of the models. And again, I'm just modeling the structure here, a theoretical model of my data flow, right? And you can see the respective classes on here on my Solution Explorer. So the data interface layer, let me just see if I can load it up. The way I did this is that I created a data interface class and an iData interface class, right? I have two signatures here in my interface class: populate folder path list and populate file paths list. These are respective to two of the functions in my animated resources class. See if I can find one. So I have here they are. So populate folder path list over here and populate file path list. So the way it works is this. Remember, this is the business logic. This is the model itself. So all of the thinking, the game logic, the mechanics of the game program itself is handled within the domain of the model. All I'm doing is calling a particular member of the model, which happens to be a method. I want to expose functionality by exposing methods using interfaces, right? And what this does is that it allows me to access all of this. So this is some of the, I guess you could say, the streaming logic for actually streaming in assets, streaming in image assets, and then converting it, which is done here, converting those assets into a canvas bitmap object, as you can see over there. All I'm doing is saying, okay, in order to do this, the first things first is that I need to import the folder path of the folder path of the assets I am concerned with. So if I go off screen, let's see if I can find an example. Where am I? Is this the right one? I'm just off screen, guys. Vanguard core. I don't even know what I'm doing. Not this one. Models. Go back. Binary. I say binary. BIM. Actually, no. Yeah. Assets. Alright guys, so just to give you guys an example, obviously this is Parallax Engine. This is one of the builds of Parallax Engine over here, as you can see. And I have a Valkyrie folder, right? And if I wanted to say import Valkyries, Valkyrie's a character that I kind of dubbed. I didn't make the graphics themselves, I only modified them to suit my needs, but I got this from my website. I'll see if I can leave a link in the description if you're interested. Remind me if I forget. There is a website with some really cool assets called Craft Pix, spelled with an X at the end. So I'm not affiliated, but they've helped me out a little bit. They got free and paid game assets, really cool. I found this on craftpix.com. I think it's .com or .io, I'm not sure. and I modified some of this, like an idle animation. But let's say these are my assets, right? And I want to stream them into my program. So obviously, there's a certain folder these are in, which is the Valkyrie folder, which is part of this file path, right? That's my file path. Let's take this off screen. So what this function, going back to my program, to Vanguard, what this method is concerned with is I need to specify the folder path, which is the Valkyrie folder, and then the file path, which is, do I even need a folder path? I can always glean the folder path from the file path, but for now, the way I've done this is that when you want to populate the particular, where is it? I'm trying to go back to it. Each individual sprite, and this will make more sense as I start to put things together. You need the file path of your sprite. Now I'm just looking at it. I need to look at the source code once again because I probably don't need one of these two. I probably can just get away with this. I actually need, yeah, there's a way to optimize this, I think. I might be over engineering this, but for now this does work. So I'm just leaving it as it is. And it's a good example right now for me to show the data flow of my like DLL layer and my project layer, right? But for now, I'm not going to tamper too much with this as everything does work. It's all tested on, I've tested all this on Parallax Engine. Yeah, this does stream in. You can import image files and then, you know, place your image files as like kind of like sprites on a bitmap at runtime, thanks to Win2D. So, speaking of Win2D, I installed Win2D. The runtime is installed on the DLL layer. And I reckon I still need a copy of the like an instance of the runtime on the project layer, but I haven't done that yet, have I? I don't think so. Because if you go here, or if I go here, if I go to my dependencies and go to my packages, I have Win2D installed on Vanguard Core. Mind you guys, Vanguard Core is the DLL layer. Do I have it here? No, I don't. So I'm not too sure. I need to test this. Do I need to install Win2D on the project layer for this to work, or will the runtime take care of things on the DLL layer? Because if I have two instances of the runtime, I could run into some issues of the Win2D runtime. That's what I wasn't sure. So I'm going to do it one by one and see what happens. I'm going to keep my Win2D runtime on my DLL layer. I'm going to see if there's a need for Win2D runtime on my project layer. I'm not 100% sure about that. I haven't tested that out yet. Okay, so now that we know the way that that data flow is happening, just to reiterate, I have my data interface layer, two signatures that refer to my, if we look at the implementation actually, of my data interface class. Let's go for populate folder pathless over here. I have a main class, and I'm accessing animated resources, which is a field, and I'm accessing populate file path list. So let's have a look at what's actually going on here. So I have a class here in my DLL. Let me just collapse some of these tabs. I have a class called main over here, and what the main basically does is that main instantiate, the way I'm doing this is that I want the main class to kind of instantiate the main members of my data flow, which include my iData interface class and my animated resources class, both in their respective domains in a sense. Because then what happens is that I am referencing this object. It's all public right now, because we're dealing with interfaces. I have animated resources. So if I go back to my implementation here, in my data interface class, I have main accessing animated resources, which is my models domain. Remember, it's the animated resources class within the domain of the models, and I'm accessing populate folder path. So remember, my data interface class is in the view model domain, which basically means anytime I want to kind of conduit information to and fro my model domain and my view domain, I need to go through my view model domain to do that, right? And so again, I'm instantiating in the main class my members. That's just the core idea of this. But I'm even considering, should the main be in the view? The main might be a view model. I need to check that out. But for now, it's fine. And then the content pipeline, I don't know if I have anything in here. Yeah, I do. So let me see. I can't remember what I did this for. So let me double check it. Load folder path, load file path list, main data interface. Yeah. So the way I did this is that instantiation of data interface. So of course in the data interface, and I'm not sure about this, but I'll run through what I'm doing anyway. So it gets a little confusing. So in my main, I've instantiated my data interface and my animated resources, okay? Then my content pipeline is responsible, the way I want to do this, is to conduit the data flow itself. That's what I want that to do. So I have all the instantiations in the main, but the actual flow of data is governed by the pipeline, which is what this is. So obviously I need to have some form of like invocations for these. I'm not calling these functions here. I reckon I'm calling them in the main. What am I calling these actually? Is it in the main? What am I doing? Wait, hold on a second. Load folder. Where is it? Content. My content pipeline. Okay, cool. Let me check my main again. Okay, I think I know what I did here. So the reason I got confused is because in my project, in my Vanguard project, I actually called this function directly from my data interface. But I think I want to go through my content pipeline. That's why I got confused, because this does work. I tested it. I will fire it up as well, guys, just to show you lot, to show you all my friends there watching on the internet. So what should happen is this. So right now I'm in my project. I'm in my project scope of Vanguard, not in my DLL scope. But what I've done, as soon as you create a DLL, or rather better said, as soon as you make a UWP class and you build it, in order to publish it, so that, because I did all this off screen, so I'll show you guys how it's done now, because the whole idea is that it's a walkthrough channel, isn't it? So I kind of want to show how to do this as well. Let me collapse some of these. So in order to publish a UWP library and reference it in a project, what you want to do, go to your Solution Explorer, you want to click your project, in this case it's Vanguard, go to Project, this is why it's really good to know how to use Visual Studio, add project reference, and then it should come up here. Well, the thing is, you might need to browse for your library after you built it. You just basically build the library by doing, clicking on this, going on build solution, right? But because, let me go back, it just kind of looks weird. Visual Studio. Because my dynamic link library, my UWP class library is actually in the same solution as Vanguard for now, for this build, I don't have to do as much moving around. So I go to add project reference. Oh, sorry, I'm in the wrong place. I have to highlight Vanguard, not Vanguard Core. Project, add reference. As you can see, Vanguard Core shows up here. It's already ticked. I'm not going to hit OK because I've already done it. I've already referenced it. Well, once you hit OK, what that does, it kind of publishes your class library. So any changes you make, well, the first thing is that now you can access your library from your project, which is pretty neat. So in my main page, I have access to Vanguard Core, right? And as I walked you guys through, this function is in Vanguard core, yeah, in my library. So I'm using libraries to help build the foundations of the project, which happens to be a game framework. And this is if I can, ideally, I would like to reach this kind of like place whereby, oh, sorry guys, I'm mid stretch right now. I would like Vanguard to be able to be as such. So you can have one class and you can build the most simple scene with just one class. That's me on the right track for me. If I can open up Visual Studio, I can get some build of Vanguard core and load the library into my project, into an arbitrary UWP project, and then with just one class I have a scene up and running, then I know I'm kind of on the right track, kind of the track I want to be on with this project, so with this Vanguard project. So what I'll do, I'm going to add a breakpoint. I think I already added one. Here, populate folder path list. That's what I'm calling here, populate folder path list. So I'm going to go ahead and run my project, or rather run my solution, or project, whichever. And hopefully we hit the breakpoint, because the breakpoint resides in my Vanguard core, my library. So I just want to test, even though this is not a directory, it's not a folder directory, it just says hello world, but I want to still see if I can access, if the logic flow of my code is going through my library itself. So again, I do run a fairly slow machine right now, so it will take a minute or two. It will take a while. So while that's happening, I'm going to go off screen. I'm just going to check to see if there's any comments or anything. Nope, not such yet. Thanks for the viewership yesterday as well, by the way, guys. It was really fun to see so many of you tuning in. It was really fun to see a comment or two. It was really, really good to see after I took a while from stream. Like, I basically didn't stream for a while. So right now, I am waiting for my project to load so that I can demonstrate my breakpoint being hit. And I'll just drag this window onto the screen. So this is Vanguard, the UWP splash screen. Obviously it's bare bones. Yeah, here we go. So we've hit the breakpoint. And if we look at our Solution Explorer, well, we happen to be in animated resources, which is, as you can, not in Vanguard project, but in Vanguard core. Animated resources, right? And we should be able to step through. And obviously the folder path that we pass, hello world, doesn't actually allude to any sort of folder structure. So an exception will probably be hit if I continue this debug session. But it's just to show that the libraries work, that I was able to successfully publish my library. So I'm gonna close out. Sweet. Alright, so now that we know that our data flow is supported, we're going to make sure that the functionality works. We're going to make sure that things follow through here. So obviously I have a bunch of functionality here, and I'm going to make sure essentially I can load in my image assets, right? So let me see. The next step, firstly, I want to adhere to my data flow. So remember, just to remind you guys, model at the bottom, my view model via my interface, iData interface layer, my iData interface class, and then my main and content pipeline. This has the instantiation of my members, and this governs the data flow itself. So really I should be going through content pipeline, which I'm not. I want to look at the implementation here, what I was trying to do. So it's funny because in my content pipeline, I'm calling data interface, which is what I'm trying to do at this level, isn't it? At my main data interface. But that's not. I'm kind of skipping ahead of myself here because I want to adhere to my folder structure and more so my data flow structure. So what this should really be doing is saying like Vanguard core main content pipeline and then the content pipeline will call this. So I'll go ahead and do that. First, let me just check my protection levels to make sure I'm public. Yeah. Content pipeline. Have I instantiated this in the main? No. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to instantiate my content pipeline class. I'm going to make it a static member. Content pipeline. Content pipeline. I want to define my interface class first, and then I instantiate it via the class itself. So content pipeline like this. Oops, let me do that. Let me see what the error is saying. I'm using accessible type, accessibility. So I got some errors with my protection level, which is not a hard fix. Actually, I need to use the new keyword. So my protection level here is public, but I reckon that this is internal, so that's a conflict, as you can see. So I have a higher level. How can I say this? Yeah, I have like a higher level module with a public visibility trying to access a lower level module with a protected / internal protection level. So I need to adjust the visibility of this interface to public. Like this. If I go back to the main, I think my error will go away. There we go. Let's see my Sweetness. So now that I've instantiated my iContent pipeline class, I want to go ahead to my that's so funny actually. Yeah, I think that's right. Wait, hold on, this doesn't feel right. Because if I'm instantiating my iContent pipeline, in my content pipeline, this should still be fine, because technically, anyway, I'm yapping. So anyway, let me continue this, and if I go into any errors, I'll address things. Now that I've sorted that out, I need to access this function, right, on my project. So I'm gonna go here, I'm gonna go to my, I'm on my Vanguard project realm, or scope better said, the scope of my Vanguard project. I'm gonna, instead of accessing my data interface directly, I'll make a reference to my library, which I don't really need to do if I name the namespace at the top, but I'm going to do it like this. It's good to kind of visually read what's going on as well. Even though this is like more lines, more text on my lines for my line of code, because I can visually see as I'm coding, oh, I'm accessing my Vanguard core library, it gives me a cue of what's going on, because what I could do is just like using Vanguard core, right? And then this Visual Studio even like colors this in like a faded out gray, because I don't need it anymore. I'm referencing Vanguard core up here, but sometimes I like to just write it out manually, because I can then see what is what, where am I getting my members from. So Vanguard core, in this case, here I'm gonna go to main first. Let me see if it's here. Content pipeline. Load folder path, which is how I named it, my function in my content pipeline. And then what load folder path does, it actually goes to my data interface and it invokes this function. So it's going to want a folder path still. Hello world. So these do exactly the same thing, but this line 15 is more adherent to my data flow, whereby I want to go through my content pipeline to access my view model, and then my view model accesses my model, and my model then has a function that is invoked. Cool, so I'm going to delete line 14. Sweetness. So where are we? Let's see what's going on. So I'm kind of reverse engineering things. because my approach is that I'm looking at what's low level here in my models, what needs to be invoked, and I'm kind of trying to like abstract the access to my lower level modules. So the way Parallax Engine worked is that what you do is that you pass a folder path and a file path. You need a folder range, and you have some of these index members, right? Because what ends up happening is pretty neat, but Parallax Engine would use these constraints and dynamically sort of like load your assets in. So if I said I have like an idle animation of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 frames, then I would add 6. I'll pass in 6, like the value 6, or if it's 0 index, I guess it would be 5. But then my index will already 0 index, so I'll pass in 6 as a constraint. And then this is why these are numbered. I named all these files 0 and I increment by 1, because it's easier for code to work with numbers than strings in a sense. So I can increment my index 0 in the program to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, right? And then I know these are the first 6 0 indexed. Of course, these are the first 6 frames of animation that I want to sort of group in a list. And then I have next set of frames. In this case, is one of her attack animations, which is from number 6 here. Frame 6 0 index, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Does that one count? No, I don't think so. So it's just from 6 to 11 here. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 frames of animation once again. And yeah, I can just import them with the indexes as references. So I guess what I would like to do today, possibly, maybe either today or tomorrow's stream, really good if it's today, if I can get like a simple image on screen, a scene basically. So what needs to be done next? In order to ascertain that, I'm gonna look at my load animated resources function. I'm gonna see what I need. Well, I'm streaming in my file path here. Now this is what I was a bit worried about, but I'm not gonna worry about too much. I'm gonna test it and see what happens. So I have a storage folder path. Loop through the number of characters needed to load, right? So I have my characters already. I have Valkyrie here. I'm gonna import her. Like at least one of these frames of animation. So just like one of these. So I'm just dealing with small numbers is just a bit easier for testing. So I can say like folder path is gonna be 1 because it's only gonna be one folder, Valkyrie folder, and then the reason I'm using a list of list, I guess I should explain this. List of string. I'll use a notepad for this. I can use sketchboard, but is sketchboard open? No, I'll use notepad. The way my sprite assets are structured at runtime, it's quite simple. So how do I load animations and stuff? So Valkyrie, let's say I have her animation. I have two components of the scene. Let's say I have a background and I have my this is player agent. I'm gonna say agent to keep things kind of like generic here. Player agent. So everything is in the folder structure. All my assets are kind of like dumped here. Depending how I wanna structure things. Obviously, I'm not gonna use these, but just as an example. So if I have a list, right, of string, what this essentially means is that I have a structure that looks like this. I can stack things up. Okay. Hopefully this makes sense as I go through it. So one way you can approach loading a large amount of sprite information or resource information, like image resource information, without having to do things manually to automate everything is this. You have a list, an outer list. And this list holds list of string. Okay, so you have to bear in mind. Okay, I've written it twice, so it's kind of confusing. And so this is the outer list. So I have list of string 1. I have list of string 2, such and so forth. Okay. And then what I want to do is in each list of string, I have the file path of each of my frames of animation for each respective asset on the screen. In this case, it would be my background and my player agent. So I could load in, say, one picture, one sprite asset for the background could be like a cityscape or a grassy plain. So I could say city.png, let's say it like that. Just for argument's sake, I know I said that I use numbers, and yeah, I should use numbers for that, but I'll just, for the sake of example, to illustrate this, city.png. And in here, I have how do you spell Valkyrie? Something like that. Valkyrie underscore 0.png. Let's say she has 2 frames of animation, so Valkyrie underscore 1.png. Okay. So this is the structure, right, of my background and player agent. It's all kind of batched. All the assets are batched into one structure, but they're organized in these individual lists. So if I have multiple animations for one character, here being Valkyrie in this example, it's all her animation is kind of referenced in list of string 2. I guess this one should be that's the title. I was gonna say list of string 0. It should be list of string 0, but it's fine. This list of string. I should have one more list of string 0, but it's fine. Let me rename it. Because I deal with 0 index, right? And then I can use like for loops to iterate through my structure. So for each element in the outer list, I load my PNG and convert to bitmap, canvas bitmap object. And then I iterate through until I'm done with the list. That's essentially what this does. Actually, is it that one? I think so. Maybe not? No, that's what this does, sorry. Load frames, I called it. This might not be the best build to load my source code from. I need to double check things, but for now, it seems to be okay. Quite messy, but it works, as far as I'm aware. I need to stretch. It's a chill stream, guys. I be stretching. Oh. Wow. Sorry, guys. Anyway. Alright, cool. So, what's going on here? So, I've explained the theory a little bit. So, what do we want to do now? We need our constraints. And the constraints are the references to where in the structure we want to load, right? And that's going to be done at project level, because if we're building a scene with a UWP project, game project with UWP, we pass the constraints to the library, and the library deals with the business logic. So what deals with that here? What are the members? it'd be folder range. So yeah, we have this for loop, and obviously the range is governed by this parameter here, this folder range. This is for loop through the number of characters needed to load, i.e. like this, 1, 2, 3, and 4, right? So this would be 4 in this example. Loop through my outer list, so frame set range. Well, the reason I did this is that I set a constraint, I think, so that I can say I want to loop through one element in one particular list of string, or two. I don't want to necessarily loop through everything, but I have to define it anyway. Otherwise, I might hit an exception if I reach the end of, you know, if I have like two, like Valkyrie underscore 1, and I'm trying to look for Valkyrie underscore 2 and it doesn't exist, I'll obviously throw an exception. To avoid even throwing an exception altogether, I just set a constraint. Frame set range. Yeah, I think that's what that's for. Because I'm already defining my outer list, so this is like the range in my inner list. Maximum frames. I don't really need to think too much here, but I just want to make sure I'm quite aware of what's going on. And I have my maximum frames slot. I need to test this actually. I definitely need to test this just to make sure it works. I need to make sure I pull this from a Parallax Engine build of this resource routine that works, but it does look trustworthy in a sense, to my eyes, because I wrote this thing. But I'm just double checking it. So file path to add. So if we assume all the constraints are accurate, all I need to really pass is folder range and frame set range. All the range is being used. Maximum frames. What did I set this to before? 0. Does that change anywhere here? That max frames could be redundant. I'm not sure. Maximum frames. Do I ever have it twice? Oh, no. I was trying to experiment with something, I think. I'm pretty sure it's this one. Let me just check this reference card. I want to make sure this is putting this in the right place. Yeah. The reason there's no references for that is for this because I'm obviously not calling this anywhere yet. In Parallax I'm calling it, but I'm not gotten there yet with Vanguard. Okay. What's next? Don't mind me guys if I do go a little bit silent. It just means I am locking in a little bit. Yeah, okay, cool. I just assign these values. Yeah, this is so messy. It's not this function. What is going on? Why have I got different things in different things? Load bitmap from file path. Load bitmap from image sequence. Not sure what I'm trying to achieve there. I have to test all of this. Some of these functions definitely have to make sure they are okay. A bit messy up here, but I'll get there. Canvas bitmap. This is where I create my canvas bitmap object. Load bitmap from image sequence, outer list, asset.add, loop through the nested list, populate the list with objects via canvas bitmap. Boy, this is getting confusing. see this one. I think this is what I want for the file paths themselves, where I'm streaming from my folder. Sorry guys, I know what I'm about to do is quite straightforward, but I just wanted to really make sure I know what's going on. There's a lot of spaghetti here. I don't like this. I really don't like this. I'm gonna make a method to modify my parameters. Yeah, I really don't like how this looks, but I'll clean it up later as I go. So folder path.count. Actually, I'm using the count folder path. And where do I populate folder path? It's here with this function that I'm already referencing with my library. So I don't have to worry about this too much. All I have to do is add the folder paths that I'm using, because I'm using a count of that. So I like that. I like the look of that. Okay, that's good. So I'm trying to avoid magic numbers. Actually, that's the core idea. That's why I don't like some of this. Some of these numbers are a bit too magic. Index 0, loop from outer list. I set 0 index count. Yeah, guess I'll roll with it for now. Let me just indicate this is the function I want, because I got really confused with this. So I'll say I want to use this function loading sprite assets from this SSD. Just so I remember, because I got confused. I got like multiple things doing things here. That's a good spot. Let's check. Make sure I don't already have a function doing what I want to do. Oops, stop. What's the name of the number? Asset 0 account. Okay, cool. I'll leave comments so that when I'm referencing my code through Visual Studio, I can actually see what's going on. So just makes using my library a bit easier. Oops. Oh, I can't use those tags right now. How to deal with that? Can I not use those? Oh, that's fine. Okay, cool. count the number of assets to load within one list of string holding sprite animations. Probably have to write a better description. But for now, I'm setting my asset 0 count. So I set it for initially. Probably hard coding the number. 100. Yeah, look at that, man. It's not great what I did there. I wrote this 100 value should be utilized rather as a list of indexes referencing each sprite set at the slot count. Yeah. But what I did here is I just set a maximum amount and I was relying on handling exceptions. Yeah, not great. Anyway, in that case, I'm going to set it to 0 because we're already setting this manually, I want to say. I think it's max frames we need to set as well. I'm not too sure. Let's see. So asset 0 index count. I've dealt with that just now. Asset 0 index count. Yeah, this makes sense. Yeah, I'm using this. I'm using the folder path, loop for the outer list. Asset 0 index count slot, adding my PNG files. So it'd be like Valkyrie 0, Valkyrie 1, if I'm not mistaken. Cool. So those are constraints. Let's put a reference to this function. This is where things get interesting because I need to pass my canvas animated control as one of these parameters. I think it's the sender parameter. Yeah, because when I pass the canvas animate control, as you can see I'm typecasting here, to this function, which then creates the canvas bitmap objects, where you need this canvas animated control for the bitmap controls to be like attached to the bitmap objects to be attached to my canvas animated control. That's why I was a bit worried about having 2 Win2D runtimes. I think having 1 Win2D runtime makes the most sense, but we're gonna see. For now, I'm gonna work backwards. So to invoke this function, let me just refer to my notes. I want to go to my data interface. So let me copy this. Let me copy the whole signature actually. Copy void. Not the whole signature, but just this one. I'm going to go to my iData interface. I'm going to say public void load animated resources. Just keep it the same name for now. So it just makes sense. This is easier to know what's going on if I keep things the same name. Then I start, rather than me getting too creative with my signature names. So the actual implementation of this signature will be in my data interface. So let me just get the signature. Data interface. Obviously there's an error because there's a mismatch between my contract. I need to implement my interface member. Like this. And now for the actual implementation logic, I might go for my content pipeline. Resources. Okay, interface talks to content pipeline. I'll deal with this, yeah. I think so. So the content pipeline, load folder, data interface, calling this function. Then look at the implementation. Don't get distracted. I just got a message. It's my tablet just made some sound. Just checking what's going on. Right. The folder for popular folder. I'm just making sure I'm adhering to this. That's interesting. Because I'm referencing here my main, because my instantiations live in my main. So technically I might have to move main from my view to my view model, in a sense. Because content, what's going on is that main just holds the instantiations. It's not really a view in that sense, perhaps. Moreover, what I'm having here is that I'm referencing main in my data interface to access my model domain. So it makes sense that my main should be my view model domain. So let me go ahead and change that. It's just a way of illustrating my data flow, so things are easy to track from my program. Obviously I can refine this as time goes. So. Where was our data interface implementation? So main, animated resources. Already forgot. Load. Oh my gosh, what am I doing today? Load anim. Oh, wow, I can't type, can I? Load animated resources. I'm gonna pass sender an E. Okay. Content pipeline. And then my content pipeline, which is not really complete yet. Okay, makes sense. Now, I hesitated because my parameters, these parameters refer, like this parameter refers to my canvas beamer object. Oh, sorry, my canvas animated control. But I can't really pass a canvas animated control right now in my project scope, because I don't even have Win2D installed here. It's in my core scope. Which means I need to pass an instantiation here somewhere. Interesting. Perhaps I can instantiate my canvas animated control in my main. Let's see how this works. Let me just look at my notes quickly. If I go to, let's see, find it, here. Parallax Engine. This one I want. I want to check.
Because the thing is, I'm referencing my canvas animated controller, my XAML layer, which my XAML layer is coupled to my XAML layer is coupled to my main XAML C# partial file. Interesting. So I might get issues with having one runtime in the library, I'm not sure. Let me look at how I did this here. Interesting. I might need two Win2D runtime, and I can pass instantiations. Maybe that's how I have to do this. Because the thing is, guys, if you remember from yesterday, I don't know if this is far. Yesterday, I'm just using this as an illustration. This is Parallax Engine. I did it on Vanguard, but I made my XML namespace for my canvas on the XAML level, right? There's a little bit of XAML that has to be done. So over there and over here, I have my main canvas animated control. So now this is coupled to my main page. You can see, and you need to set some events for your draw and update calls, typed event handlers. But what happens when my runtime, my Win2D runtime, is in my library there's no concept of XAML here in a sense. It's all in this project scope. So the question is, how do I instantiate a canvas animated control where the runtime is only in the library? So I think I have to get Win2D runtime also here and just pass instantiations. I'm gonna try that. Let me check my XAML file quickly. I want to see if my Win2D, my XML namespace for my canvas animated control is still there. Where's my XAML file? Oh, I'm going the wrong page. Hey guys, what's going on? I see you there. Hey there. I'm looking at the comments off screen. What's your name? Digenda. What's up? I'm doing very well, thank you. Just doing a little bit of coding, as you can see, for Vanguard Engine. Thanks for the shout out. Hope you're having a great day, Digenda. Hope I said your name correctly. Sorry if I didn't. Okay, so now what's going on? So yeah, I have my XML namespace here. I have my canvas animated control. That's funny. I should have my Win2D runtime then. Packages. Doesn't show up. Doesn't show up at all. That's very strange, and that's because that's very strange, guys, isn't it? That I was able to even reference this where Win2D is not even showing up on my dependency. But this is not a Win2D object. It's not a Win2D member. I think that's why. It's now a Microsoft Graphics Canvas UI XAML member. So what I need to do to make sure things work, I'm just really worried that I'm gonna have two versions of my runtime, but I'm gonna go for it anyway, guys. But before I go ahead and start installing packages, let me go to my main page, .c# file.
But first I need my notepad so I can just reference something. Because this is tied to the XAML, this is what I have to do on this project scope. Where's my notepad? Trade resources, control. Let's go for this. Let's double check, make sure I'm on the right track. Grab this. Okay, and get out the constructor because it's quite messy. I'm going to call this my pseudo pipeline in the sense that I'm just testing to get the scene up and running, so I'm making like a pseudo pipeline here. Get this, my main canvas animated control. So far so good. So let me have a look at this. So main canvas animated control, which is in my XAML file, defined by XAML, plus equals my typed event handler, canvas animated control. And what am I passing here? Animated resources, load frames. So basically what this is saying is when I want to load my resources, there's a function I want to invoke, and it's this one. This one here, load frames. But this resides in my, this load frames actually resides in my Vanguard core. So I need to refer to my library. This is why I'm getting an error. So what do? I'm gonna write Vanguard. See if I can go through my pipeline. But before I do that, let me just check. Oh, I'm getting error as well. Okay. Content pipeline. I'm still doing that kind of wrong. I should be going through my pipeline, not my data controller. So let me go to my my Vanguard core library. Where's my main? Content pipeline is public. Internal. Let me check my other class. Are they public? I think so. My data interface. Public. Data interface. Public. Oh well, the implementation class is still internal, which is fine. But the interface should be public, which is good. Interface public. Yeah. Okay. Cool. What was it? Load assets, I think it was called. Can't remember. Load frames. So let me go to my animated resources class. This is my business logic to load resources. There should be a function called load frames. That's what I'm using. So this is what I'm using. Okay. I'm not even going to write a reference. I'm not going to write a comment because it's going to be, I'm going to know from the code itself. And so the constraints I set earlier don't do anything, I think. So I'll just change things. So folder range is set to what? 1. This has to be done set by the programmer, right? It can't just be hard-coded because every game being built is different, right? I'm only using one folder path, so it's going to still be 1. What I'm going to do is put that to 0. We're going to have a function to expose this feature. So frame set range is 1 here as well. I'm going to put that to 0 and again expose that. I want them both to be 1. Probably shouldn't forget 1. Where's that function I made earlier? Folder range. I might be able to just use the function I made earlier. Where's it gone? You know what, now. But if I just make another function. Because it's for something completely different. Public void. And if this function set as a 0 index count is redundant, I'll just get rid of it later. And set my folder range. Folder range. Range. What else am I using in set frames? I need to set my constraints at kind of like global scope. Folder range, frame set range. I can do this in all in one function, but it's like because of design, I want one function to do one thing. Is the best way to do it. It's the whole single responsibility principle, isn't it? Frame set range and max frames. So tempting to just like do everything, all my features in one function, but you know, I gotta be solid. Alright, so public void, what was it? Frame set frame set frame set range. I'm just gonna call this function set frame range. Frames range. Frame range. This is also an integer value, so I'll just say range. Remember, I set this to 1 at the top, which I changed to 0. So when I call this function, I just pass 1 as I would need. Okay. And there's one more, I think, max frame or something. Is it? Build frame. I need maximum frame. Set to 0, so all these have to be. I'm gonna assign these a value as and when I need to. Max frames. Not even sure. Oh, do I need max frames? Yeah, I do. I'm using it right now. Excuse me, guys. Void set max frames. Maximum. Awesome. Wow, I've got a lot of stuff on the chat. Let's see what's going on. Alright, we have questions here. Let me have a look. What's up? I have a question. I want to start programming. I know some basics of Python, but I want to know how a programmer works. Let me see. Is that your question? I want to know how a programmer works. Do you mean how a programmer, like a developer, works, or are you talking about how a program works? I'll try to address that in a second. So, Lazy Toe, hello. I'm looking at this in my small laptop screen, so do excuse the fact I'm like lunging. Abu Neil 1741, hey there, thanks. Val Christeb, hello. I'm doing great, hope you're doing well. Yeah, so someone already addressed this question. I'll also say I want to know how a programmer works. So if you're talking about how a developer works, I mean, you just start with the basics. For me, the way I learned how to program, if that's what you're trying to say, if that's your question, I'll tell you the truth. I was an intern in a company. They use CSharp, and they said, you know, you're not going to use YouTube. They told me I'm not going to use any form of internet outside of documentation, like official MSDN documentation. They gave me a monolithic code base, like a full-on monolithic code base, and they said learn what you're doing. that's how I learn. And I'll be real with you. So in fact, let me see. I don't know. Let's see if I can get a tab open here. If you're wondering what MSDN is, it's Microsoft Documentation Network for the entirety of like C#. Basically, it's really cool. But now they've renamed MSDN to Learn Microsoft. I'm off screen, but I'm gonna put it up on the screen. So let's just say MSDN abstraction. Oh, let's say interfaces. Interfaces. This is to answer one of the questions there. So the way I learned how to program, which for me is like the best way, I'm obviously biased to this because it's how I learned, is I went on a website like this. There used to be this popular website called Stack Overflow that like every developer would use, and it was a internet forum of questions regarding like coding. But now with like in the age of AI, people don't use Stack Overflow as much. People rely on AI to answer their questions. But I use Stack Overflow and I use this website called MSDN. So Microsoft Developer Network, which is now renamed as Learn Microsoft. And yeah, you just kind of like Google search what you need to know. I learned a lot of the .NET APIs and libraries and the classes through just reading. I just read through the documentation. The official documentation was my favorite reference, and that's how I learned. And I just started coding bit by bit. It took me 6 months to feel comfortable writing "Hello World" on the screen. I tell you the truth today. So it took me 6 months to understand I'm assigning a value to a variable, I'm moving things around, these are objects. It took me 6 months. And this is from like reading documentation. I didn't really rely on YouTube tutorials, although I could have done so at home. I didn't really like bringing my work home with me, so I just kind of like did whatever I wanted at home. But when I was at work, I would literally read documentation, Stack Overflow forums, and I learned .NET C# like that. And you know, I wasn't like amazing at the start. I wouldn't say I know what I'm doing, but it's like there are developers leagues ahead of me. Let's put it that way. That's the case. But to get to this stage, like it was an iterative process. That was in 2015. That was about 10 years, over 10 years ago. So I've been at C# for over 10 years. You know, I've been coding for over 10 years, exposing myself to development environments for 10 years, you know, playing around, building apps, shipping an app, making game concepts for that span of time. So you really got to put the reps in. I'm not saying it's going to take you that amount of time. Now we live in the AI age. You know, you can get a lot done a lot quicker. This is pre-AI, man. Imagine, like, so yeah, someone would answer the question, you know, on the chat, but you just got to keep going, you know. You just got to keep doing it until you learn. Read official documentation. If it's Python's your thing, as you said, read official Python documentation if it's out there. Learn the APIs. Build a Hello World project or something at that level. And then just like, for me, my supervisor at the time approached me and said, hey Will, he knows I was into games. He recommended the XNA framework, which is now, XNA is now deprecated. But Win2D is like the next best thing, in my opinion, because it's all mono game. If that's your kind of thing, you can use mono game. If you're into video games development, which I assume you are, find something like Pygame, which is like, I believe, a Python-based game development library or something like that. I have not really used Python that much, but I've heard of Pygame. And learn the API and build a simple game. It can just literally be tic-tac-toe. I built tic-tac-toe on a live stream. It took about 2 hours. There's probably guys who could do it in 30 minutes. It took me 2 hours. And yeah, build up from that. Build stuff that you enjoy. But you gotta start. So the quicker you start, the quicker you get to where you want to be. That kind of thing. I forgot what I wanted to do. So I totally forgot. So I was building these accessors in my models domain in order to expose some functionality of my resource load routine. And I'm doing it all individually, which seems inconvenient, but again, it all comes down to like solid. Let's see if I got it up here. I think I can put it up. I don't know if I have solid up here. No, I don't. No, sorry guys. I wrote it on my notepad somewhere. I don't know if I got it up. So solid. Single responsibility classes should handle just one functionality. This helps reduce coupling issues and increases cohesion throughout the program. So that's why I'm doing each individual setter as an individual module, right? It's so I'm a little bit solid compliant like that, right? Okay, sweet. So, well, how are we doing for time? I want to respect the time of the stream, so I don't want to take too long here. Let me go to my OBS. Wow, we're almost approaching 1 hour and a half. Pretty sweet. Let's see what we can do in the as I'm about to wrap up soon. It's, you know, these streams are never too long. I might do a long stream, which is like 2+ hours, but that's probably not this one right now. It's like an hour and a half. But I'll keep going for a little bit. So let's see, where was I? Let me get my other notepad up. Okay. So I'm basically trying to invoke load frames, this, using my data flow. So if I go back, oh yeah, that was it. I was looking at the canvas bitmap objects and stuff. Oh yeah, I remember now. So Vanguard core load frames. So I need to fix my data flow, right? Ideally I should be going through my content pipeline. I don't know why I'm bypassing it. I'm not doing that right. So my iContent pipeline. I'm literally not doing something right because my members are not public here. Excuse me. So I'm gonna go to my content pipeline. I'm gonna see what's going on here. Okay, that's funny. Maybe it's because I haven't built it yet. Let's see that again. Reference equals reference, yeah. I think the reason my members are not showing here is because I haven't built, since I made my content pipeline members, I didn't build the project. So I technically have to republish my DLL. So I'm gonna just comment that out. I'm gonna hit build. And to stretch, man. There's not enough space between me and the desk right now. How's that? Oh, okay, cool. Alright, sweet. I'm just checking something. Okay. So now my Visual Studio is building. So I'm gonna give it a few seconds. It does take a minute or two on my laptop. And as that's happening, I'll just kind of walk through what I'm trying to do here. So I'm basically trying to load sprites into my scene via this, as I've already explained a lot of times. All that business logic was here, right? And as you can see right now, I am on my project scope. In order to, and I don't know why the iContent pipeline wasn't showing. In fact, I need to update this. Content pipeline.cs. Again, I'm just waiting for Visual Studio to load. I'm literally just buying time because it just taking a minute. I'm just gonna sip my tea. Oh, build succeeded. Excellent. So, where am I? Let me see if iContent pipeline is visible now. Oh, iContent pipeline is not the issue. It's the members within iContent pipeline. Still not showing. Okay, cool. Let me see what's going on here. Vanguard core iContent pipeline. Seriously weird that my members are not showing. Let me check something else. Content pipeline, idea to interface. Okay, I see what's going on. Here we go. I had to go through my main, because the main has my implementation of my content pipeline interface. So I made a little error there. Okay, so I think it's called load frame. No, is it load frames I want to use? I think so. It's probably private, that's why I can't see it. again, this is just a quick example, just to get something up and running on the screen. I'm gonna see what I did here on my notepad. Load frames, yeah, that's what I'm calling. Obviously, before I load frames, at some level, I need to set the constraints, but I just want to make sure I'm passing this stuff correctly. So I'm gonna go back to my business logic of my library. Make sure load frames is public, which it is. I'm not sure why I couldn't find it. Let me go back. Get notifications. Oh, okay, because I haven't actually made it. I'll go to my content pack. I'm getting ahead of myself. Data interface. Implementation is there. Resources. Stuff is not right. And I know what it is. I'm accessing my instantiations. It's the way I'm accessing my instantiations that's really put me off, but I am rolling with it for now. For now. I should be accessing my instantiations in my library. And I should be accessing my content pipeline from my project, but something is conflicting, I think. Let me roll with it and see what happens for now, and then I will address what's going on as I go, just so I don't lose my trail of thought. So, main data interface, where is it? Load animated resources, object sender, I think that's what it needs. Object sender, object E. This is where I need to pass my canvas control. This is the bit I was not too sure about. So my canvas control is in my XAML file. I need to make sure I'm passing the correct control. I can't be just like instantiating multiple controls. So I have the instantiation coupled to my XAML. So the question is, how do I pass it? Let's see now. Go to my notepad quickly. I could reference it and just pass it through in my constructor. Let me try that. It's kind of weird. It feels weird doing this. Is there a better way? Because this is the create resources. There should be a discrete function to pass the canvas control, I think. Where am I? Solution, name. Oops, messed up. Canvas animate control, if I can get it here. Say canvas animated control. Canvas animate control. Like this. Now I need to make sure I'm passing the canvas that's actually going to be drawn on the screen here. So I'm going to attempt to have a function that just passes it in. It's static. The context is static, so I don't need to use a constructor right now, if I'm not mistaken. So if I go back to where is it? Let me close NuGet. It's just there. I regret doing that because I just paused the whole Visual Studio. this is anyway. The way I like crashed Visual Studio yesterday, I pressed something and just like VS just exploded on me. So I was scared of that again. Anyway, let's see if I got this. So again, I'm just dumping functionalities in my pseudo pipeline just to test things out, right? And I'll obviously make things like modularize things properly later. So, Vanguard core main. Got my canvas animate control. I wanna make a instantiation a reference to the instance of my main canvas animate control. Main canvas. Let me see if this works. Seems to have worked. So I'm gonna write a comment. Excuse me, guys. So after that's done, this needs, as you can see, I need a canvas animated control, which I've just passed a reference to, which I can just do here. So I don't know what I was doing earlier. So canvas animated control. This is referenced. This should already have the reference pass for my XAML canvas animated control, like I said. And what's the next one? Canvas create resource event argument. Where do you get that from? I think it's. I'll check my notepad, but let me see. I don't know if I'm casting that later. It could just be an object. Depends how I'm doing it. I have to check my reference file, so I'll go to my notepad. Let's see how I did this. The part where I'm using the two parameters, I can't find it. Oh, here we go. So canvas animated control as an overload, Microsoft Graphics Canvas UI, canvas create resource argument class. Let me copy this for now quickly. The question is, where am I passing this from in my program? Just gotta make sure I'm doing this right. Make work backwards. Here's my main page. Let me see that again. Obviously, I've only got like files here. I'm not gonna load them on Visual Studio, like the whole project. Even easy, that's fine. Let's find where I'm loading that from. It's not here, so it's probably one of my other classes. I just don't want to arbitrarily grab this member. I just want to make sure I'm doing it right, so let me just see what I'm doing. But just in case, I will just copy it. It's not here, it's from somewhere else. Maybe it's just like that. Oh, I see. It's when I oh, that's interesting. Wait, hold on a second. Hold on, Will.
trying to match this. What am I actually doing here? Something's not correct. Let me just check that. I'm doing something completely wrong, aren't I? I've got the types here, and I've got the function I want to hook. So I need to reference a function, which matches the type signature. So I think I just did that wrong. The syntax is a bit incorrect. Sorry guys. Load frames, and I'm doing something completely wrong here. Vanguard core main. Let me see. Vanguard core. Let me look at my content pipeline. Content pipeline. So it's good to make notes. Content pipeline. Man, I might have over-engineered this, but I need the data interface, which I could just grab directly. Let me see how this looks. I might not even need the content pipeline bit at this stage. Might be a little over-engineered to use my content pipeline. Anyway, data interface. Now I'm gonna go here. See what's missing. Load animated resources. Does that show up? Load animated resources. Obviously it expects my overloads. I'll check my reference here. This doesn't expect overloads because I didn't build it to expect overloads. Check it again. Animated resources. I don't like my approach here. Deviating from my notes, and I'm questioning why. Wait, why am I getting so confused? See, I want this. Might really make a difference. It's just an event argument. I really don't want to deviate from the notes. I don't even know how I deviated. I actually made a mistake. Just sort this out quickly. Resources to event argument. Cancel the control. Okay, let me try something. Don't know if this will work. If it does work, I'll be even more scared if it doesn't. I shouldn't have to be passing overloads here because I didn't do it in my notes. That's what I'm worried about. I don't like what I'm doing, man. I really don't like this, but I'm gonna just roll with this for now. I have confused myself. Oh, whoops, might be. Oh gosh. Yeah, I thought so. I knew that was wrong. What was I doing all this time? My goodness. Build animated resources. Oh wait, hold on. Hold it, Will. Close the function. I know what I'm doing is actually wrong, but whatever. I just want to kind of see what's going on here. This is not going to go through. I've actually botched it. Hold on. Nah, I can't roll with this. It's so simple, just pass the function wheel. I baffle myself sometimes. Sorry guys. I baffle myself sometimes. There's one thing my old supervisor said. When I say old, I mean like my ex-supervisor said. He said, Williams, there is one thing I do that I need to look at, and that's I overcomplicate things. For sure. That is something I do. I overcomplicate my solutions. Anyway, I just had to pass the function. Anyway, whatever. It just had to match the signature, and I was getting a bit confused. I saw the type signature, I thought I had to pass them in, but the type signatures are just already validated by virtue of the fact that my functions overloads match the type signatures here. So that's all good. I got confused. Let me check the time. So guys, approaching 2 hours now, so I do want to wrap up the stream. Obviously there's nothing rendered on the screen, but I want to respect the time. So for now, we're on the right track. We have our data flow kind of set. I am hooking an event here to load the resources. The next thing to do is to hook the event for the draw call and the update calls, and then load resources that load and draw on those calls. So that's what's going to be next. So I'm going to be working off screen, guys, to get that done, so to give myself a head start for the next stream, and then hopefully by the next stream, off the bat, I'll be able to show you a very simple scene that I've already worked on off screen, and we'll take it from there. Okay, so doing things step by step. Thanks for tuning in, guys. I'm gonna log off the stream because it's approaching 2 hours now. Let me just quickly check if there's any comments. Where's the tab with the comments on it? Okay, there's a few more comments. Let me have a look. Can you explain what cooking? Okay, yeah, sure. What's going on here? Some of these comments are really good. So, keep at it, we cooking. I've been learning C# over the last 4 to 5 years doing Unity self-taught. Haven't used XAML at all. XAML's a weird one because with XAML, so there's gonna be just like a little bit of a chat section before I close off the stream. So with XAML, it's love-hate because you have this like kind of coupling between the business logic and the UI logic, but there's love because it's like you can enforce certain patterns that benefit from the coupling of the business logic and the view logic, UI logic. So XAML comes in clutch for like UWP apps. Not so clutch when you want to go kind of deeper. That's why in the Win32 era, we could do more. We had XAML with like the WPF, Windows Presentation Foundation era. But it depends how you look at it. So you don't need XAML for Unity development, obviously. But here, the canvas animate control is tied to the XAML, so it's necessary. So yeah, it's kind of a UWP thing in that respect. But there are flavors of Win2D that run outside of UWP. So if I get up the documentation, I don't know if I have it here. I think I have it here somewhere. If I go to the Win2D documentation, right at the top, introduction. Where's the bit that talks about the other versions of it? I can't find it, but there's a part where it says I can actually go to Visual Studio to show you guys. Tools, NuGet. So there's like a WinUI version of Win2D. There's like even for Windows 8.1, I don't know what that's doing there. But you don't necessarily. What I'm trying to say is, XAML is only relevant for like the eras of like WPF up to like UWP. I don't even know. I think Maui still uses XAML. I might be wrong. Someone correct me if I'm wrong on that. Let me see. What other comments do we have here? If someone wants to learn how to code, go for something like HTML, CSS. That's really good for the web. Really good to go with the basics. So I have to agree with that. I learned Python, use Pygame, but first started with console RPG games. That's awesome. Hello there, Code Guy 1. Can you explain what I'm cooking? So basically, the sort of game engine I'm making, it's very simple. It's just basically a layer that sits on top of UWP that allows developers to make 2D games quicker. So you can do it all from scratch, but I'm trying to leverage some of the pain points of making like C# games, and I'm trying to leverage that off on the library level so you don't have to do it. So one thing I found is like building game scenes as a whole is a pain point, and loading resources are a pain point. So my library basically does that for you. My library just says, put your file paths in, I'm gonna pump out scenes as an output. That's what Vanguard's doing. If you look at some of my other streams, you'll see Parallax Engine. That's a good reference. Look at my Parallax Engine trailer, if it's still public. I don't know if it's public. Look at some of the streams where I was building Parallax Engine, and I built some of the game concepts, because yeah, that does what I'm doing here, but I'm not using libraries. I just use like C# classes basically. Win2D. Let me see, Win2D UWP, just to show you guys. I'm sure you all already know, or most of you know at least, but there's different flavors of UWP. Let me just see what else is here. It's funny because it's not me struggling. Yeah, I tend to struggle a lot. I'm just, going through the motions as a developer, is what it is. Keen to give the framework a go though. I'm gonna get there, guys. I'm gonna get there, so do to tag along for the ride. Chat spam, I love delegates. Peace be upon you, bro. Oh wow, have a wonderful day. Giggle ranking, thank you. So yeah, I'm using the Win2D UWP flavor over there, and there's other versions. I don't know where it's not showing up, but it should be here.
I saw it earlier. I saw the WinUI and Maui versions and the Windows 8.1 version. Okay, I'm going to wrap up the stream. Thanks for tuning in, guys. Love you all, and I hope you all have a great day. I should be streaming tomorrow, okay? Take it, guys. Bye-bye. See you.